Hello and welcome back to Politically Incorrect. I'm Tom Christiano. Well, tonight is our very special 350th Politically Incorrect show, and I have a group of 4 very good friends of mine to help me celebrate this wonderful occasion. I'll introduce them in a second, but first I'd like to let you know that it's been very enjoyable to do these shows for over 18 years now, and I've met some wonderful, wonderful people. I've had over 200 different panelists on the show. And as many of you know, I keep track of each panelist on an Excel spreadsheet. So I know exactly how many times they've been on the show. And many of them are starting to approach over 20 or more appearances on the show. I shouldn't say many, but a few. And then many are over in double digits now. I think Pam Armstrong on her show tonight, this is her 16th time on the show. So she's the highest on the show tonight. But anyway, I think we're going to have some fun tonight, but we'll also be talking about some serious, mostly local issues on the show tonight. And so thank you very much for all of you who watch the show, who give it a thumbs up on Facebook every time I post it. That shows that you care about the show and you appreciate it. It's just a way to communicate, and that's nice. And thank all of you who watch it on YouTube as well. So I'd like to introduce this wonderful panel. We have Selectman Jim Lane with us tonight. How are you, Jim?
I'm doing well, Tom. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here, Jim. As you've been a selectman and before, I think you've become a good friend of mine because I think you're such a nice person. You're very low key. You know, you kind of.
I hope my mother's watching.
Yeah. You never seem to get too excited about anything or angry. I don't know. You're not Italian, are you? Because they're just the opposite. But Jim, you know, and you always on Facebook. Speaking of thumbs up, you're very nice to people and give a lot of thumbs up when you see their post, which I think is letting them know, 1, that you've read their post or seen it, and 2, you're saying good job or nice picture or whatever, and it's a really nice thing to do. And so that's another reason I invited you on the show tonight, Jim, because
I give you a thumbs up?
No, because you give other people a thumbs up, too, not just me.
Yeah, well, we're losing our 3 there.
Yeah, it's typical.
Yeah, oh. And also, so how many years have you been, you're up next year, right?
Up in April, right?
Up in April for re-election to the Board of Selectmen.
Yes.
3 years goes by quick, doesn't it?
It
yeah,
does,
it's been busy.
Have you enjoyed it so far, Jim?
I've loved it. I've loved it. I've loved helping out, and I enjoyed my time on the planning board with Susan prior to that, and with Pam at the beginning stages. I think you were there my first year as a regular member and 1 year as an alternate. So it was kind of tough love. These guys showed me the ropes and prepared me to get onto the Board of Selectmen, because I'll tell you what, the planning board is not a board to be underrated, because there's a lot of tough decisions that come up there, and a lot of homework, a lot of research, and being, going out driving properties and stuff like that. So I think it really got me ready to sit on the Board of Selectmen, and it's different decisions that are made, but still, with the land use and zoning stuff, it controls all the development in town. So it's very important decisions that all the land use boards make. So.
And you do love it, so you're probably going to be running for re-election in April, Jim?
I got to talk to my wife and my kids. It's still a little early yet. We're only in September, but I've had a good time with it, and I enjoy serving. So we'll see what the family front brings, and make that decision probably November, December timeframe.
Yeah, great. And you're also a vice president in the company that, what is it, MCOR?
Yeah, MCOR Facility Services.
And you have so many people that are working kind of under you in the organization chart, right?
Sure
so
do.
I don't know how you have the time to do both, Same thing with Janet Askenburg, but how do you do it, Jim?
I think it's just like anybody else. I mean, you find the time to give back to your community. It sounds cliche, but it's something, I've grown up here. And I love the community, and you find what ways you can give back to the community, and being on the Board of Selectmen has truly been a learning experience, which keeps you challenged, and you're learning different things. Yes. Municipal government and the private sector are totally opposite in how things are done, so it's kind of nice to see both sides.
Yes.
In the private sector, you need something for your business. You put a business plan together, and you go and you execute, right?
Yes.
And you might have, short-term and long-term and a little bit longer-term plans. But here in municipal government, you're rubbing 2 nickels together to get a nickel, right? Yeah. So it's not, they're definitely not the same. So it's nice to be able to take some of the the expertise that you have in the private sector and bring it over to the municipality side, and help with that creative side of thinking and getting things done and looking for creative ways to find funding and how to do things.
Well, thank you very much for finding the time to be on the show.
Hey, I'm just
tonight,
happy to
Jim.
be here for 350 for you and Sweet 16 for Pam. So.
No, it's Pam. Thank you, Jim. It's Pam Armstrong's 16th time on the show today, right, Pam? How does it feel, 16th time on the show?
Well, I want to know if I beat Philip yet? Because I remember Philip and Bill used to fight.
Yeah, not yet. No,
see,
no.
not enough time.
Yeah. But
Who's
hopefully,
been the most out of all your?
I think Bill Dalton.
Bill
maybe,
Dalton was
yeah.
up there.
Yeah. But a lot of people are coming up quickly
Yeah.
now, because Bill, as you know, he's not a selectman now,
No.
so he's not on the show as often as he used to be.
Yep.
When people are selectmen, or school committee members, I tend to invite them more on the show, sometimes, and
Yeah.
planning board to some extent.
Yeah. Well,
And-
thank you for having me on your 350th.
Oh, thanks. Well, you know I could never not invite you, Pam, one of my good friends. Pam has
you,
been
Tom.
a good friend of mine. In fact, she took me to the hospital at least once.
It was a
Well, with
tough ride.
I had the shoulder dislocated. It was
shoulder.
the most painful thing,
Yep. In the
even
middle
more
of
painful
winter,
than a heart attack. Believe it
and
or
I had
not,
to
it
drive
was
him to the
really bad.
hospital. Yep.
So I was able to get hold of Pam after calling her daughter. Her daughter calls Pam. Pam comes over. It's snowing out, right? But she has a Jeep four-wheel drive. And she's very gently driving over to the hospital, right?
Every bump, he was in pain.
Oh my God, but she helped me out a lot there. And that was 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
I remember 2003.
And then
It was
a
amazing.
couple years ago, I'm sitting at the Lowell Folk Festival, get a phone call. Tom just had a heart attack. He's a little general. I'm like, up.
I
gotta
took
go.
note of that.
Yeah, yeah.
The little general.
Yeah,
Is that
so
why
all
you
my
invited
friends are here.
both of us here
Yeah.
tonight? So that
Yeah,
we all
right.
ride just
No,
like
Tom, now wait a second. I haven't taken you. I don't want to be the next one.
Yeah.
Stay healthy.
I hope I don't get another one. In fact, I'm over 2,000 miles biking already this year, so I've never felt better pretty much in my life. I mean, I'm biking like crazy. I just hit 2,020 miles, and my goal for the year is 2,420 miles,
Nice.
which is just a little bit ahead of last year. So I'm feeling great, and God willing, things will be great. But if not, hopefully it's just quick. Just, hey, that's the best way to go, right? Just on the bike path, zipping along. Whoop.
Okay, so that's going to be your turn.
I was going to say, wait a
No,
second.
no more shows.
Shall I change my number?
Hopefully Pete will find out if I don't show up one day for a show taping. But that's another thing I wanted to mention. I've been lucky that on every show date, I've never had to cancel because of health reasons, which have been really great. Even with a heart
Yeah.
attack or the shoulder, I've always made it.
Yep.
So I've been really lucky about that.
Yep, I'm lucky.
So Pam has been on shows, we said 16 times now, and Pam is a town meeting representative and
That's
long-time town meeting rep.
Yep.
She had been on the planning board for a long time.
Yep.
And are you still a realtor, Pam?
Oh, I'm still a realtor, yes.
Yeah.
And the market's coming back, so
Yeah.
it's a good time to look into what your house is worth if you're considering selling or
Yeah.
buying. You want to get in soon before they go up any higher. But yep, good market, good time.
Great. And Pam, I should let people know about my little beard that I'm growing here right there. Pam isn't a huge fan, which I could understand that, of beards, but about 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, I started growing a beard to support the Red Sox, my team, and they're doing great. Ever since I started growing the beard, I don't want to take all the credit. Maybe Justin Pedroia gets a little bit of the credit. But they've been winning like almost every game, as you may know. I mean, it's clear it looks like they're going to lock up their division and not be a wild card, get into the playoffs, hopefully then make it through the American League Championship and then the World Series, and hopefully go all the way. And I'm going to keep the beard as long as they keep going towards the playoffs and in the playoffs.
Now, do we get to tug on it like they do in the dugout?
Yes, but I'm going to keep mine shorter than some of the Red Sox
I was
players,
going to say,
though.
I'm glad you started at the end of the summer and not at the beginning. You'd be so
Oh, yeah.
scruffy.
Yeah, I
like
know.
that.
I've been going even today with the scissors, cutting it short. Yeah, I don't like to look up, like, what's it, Duck Dynasty? The guys have these really long beards.
Got this big beard.
But speaking of TV shows, I never watch it, but they have one of the most popular shows, from what I understand. Like 9 million people view it.
It's a good show.
Pam
Very
likes it.
funny.
I've
Very
never
funny.
seen it, but those guys have the big, long beards. Oh, my God. But you could see some of the Red Sox players, and after they hit a home run, if they have like the long beard,
Yeah.
the guys pull the beard, for luck and everything. I don't know. But
So we'll pull your beard after the show.
yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, you could wish me luck, though, somehow. Maybe. I was going to say pull my finger or something. No, no, but maybe we better not do that.
Kidding about this being a relaxed show.
I know.
Well, anyway, thanks for
Are
being
you
here.
hiding whoopee cushions too?
Oh my God, and I haven't even been drinking. Oh my God, imagine if I had a drink or two. Jeez.
I'm glad I didn't bring that prosecco.
Well, thanks, Pam
Thanks
and
for having
Jim.
me, Tom.
And on this side of the panel, we have my good friend Sue Carter. How are you, Sue?
Good. Thanks for having me, Tom.
And you're in double digits too, Sue. Your
I know,
12th
I'm
time on the show. Your lucky dozen
I'm
appearance.
not
12th
quite a
time.
teenager yet.
Yeah, right. But 12th is good, and
Yep.
it's great. And, Sue, as everyone knows, she's been on the planning board for many, many years. How many until she just left
I was
recently?
on 16 and a half.
16
So I
and a half.
predated both Pam and Jim.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
yeah.
outlasted them too.
And in
Yeah.
conservation before.
Yeah,
right?
conservation
And
was
conservation before
91
that?
I started conservation.
And so you were the chairperson of the planning board too for many, many times, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Well,
The good thing was we rotated, so I was
Rotate,
on
yeah.
and off. Yeah.
I don't know. And then you were the chair of some other committees too, like maybe
I
the
was
Oak Hill
chair
or
of
this
the
or
Oak
that.
Hill Study Committee, the study committee to study North Chelmsford Water District, or the impact of the DPW on North Chelmsford Water, and I forget what else. And I was on a bunch of other committees.
What?
And I'm still on Land Trust now. That
Wonderful.
I scale back now. I'm Land Trust, Chelmsford Land Conservation Trust, and
Yeah.
town
And you're
meeting.
also, of course, town
Yep.
meeting representative,
Yep.
Precinct 5.
Yep.
So you've been a rep for a long time, right? Town meeting
Yep.
rep, great.
Yep.
Well, thanks so much for being on the show,
Thanks
Sue.
for having me.
Anything extra new that you want to mention since I talked to Jim and Pam about their jobs and everything? Oh, you're a principal of your company, right?
Yeah,
A co-owner.
Yep. We
And-
moved in the spring to a new office space in Littleton, and we finally are big enough to have a part-time receptionist. So we're
Wonderful.
growing.
Tell everyone what you do.
Oh, I'm a civil engineer, and our company does. It's called Places Associates, so it's for planning, landscape architecture, civil engineering, and surveying.
Wonderful. So if anybody needs that service, maybe they could
Yep.
give you a call.
Oh, we'd be happy to.
Which would be wonderful.
And that was
That's
one of the
great.
reasons why I decided to get off of the Chelmsford boards, so that I could do work in town.
Yes,
Because
wonderful.
while I was
Yes.
working on a board, I was technically a municipal employee and
Yes.
couldn't do work in town. So this will just open up some new opportunities.
I certainly hope so. That's great. I'm so glad your business is going well, Sue.
Thank
So I
you.
remember when you just started that a number of years ago, and it's tough to start a new
well,
business.
And of course, we always start in the pit of the recession, so
Oh,
you
yeah,
know, it's
that
an
was
uphill
tough.
battle.
5 years ago was
Yep.
the bottom of this
Yep.
huge
But I've been fortunate to have a couple of really good clients, and now we're getting more municipal jobs. We're the guys were out surveying Sudbury Police Department today, so we're getting some new stuff coming.
Wonderful.
So
That's
great.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you.
Thanks.
And we have my good friend Janet Askenburg with us tonight. How are you, Janet?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. Janet is such a good friend. She brought in a beautiful cake for us tonight. The cake, you'll see it later when we get a 5-shot. It says 350 on it, and congratulations on your 350th show, right,
Yep,
Jan?
yep.
And you got it at a bakery near where you work in Burlington, is it?
Lakash's.
At Lakash's? Wow, that's so nice of you, Janet.
Oh, you're welcome.
And
I
not only
appreciate
that-
being invited.
She also brought in this beautiful hat.
Put it on.
Oh, Pete
It's a
might have been
crown.
going to get
It's
a
a
shot
crown.
of the cake. A crown, I'm sorry.
Put it on.
I have this crown. Well, he doesn't have a 1-shot at the moment, so I'll put it on later. But Janet brought that in, and the plates and the forks, and you really come prepared. Like, you never were a Girl Scout, were you? Or
I was a brownie.
a
but-
brownie, wonderful. Because, our motto in Boy Scouts is be prepared. And I never forget that, even though I'm not 12 anymore. I still remember that. And I always try to be
That's
prepared.
because you're an Eagle Scout.
Right, thank you.
Yeah.
I always try to do that for whatever I do, to be prepared. That's why, contrary to some other shows, which I won't, no, I always, I was just gonna say, I let everybody know what the topics are ahead of time and everything. We get prepared that way, and I keep the Excel spreadsheet with who's been on, when they've been on, so I kind of like to be prepared and organized. So Janet, thank you very much.
Wow.
Thank you. Well, and Janet, as you all know, is now a member of the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen.
Yes.
You're in your first term now, right, Janet?
That's correct.
And how do you like it so far?
I like it a lot. I like it a lot. It's
Wonderful.
a great group. We all get along very well, collaborate. It's great working with the town manager, Paul Cohen. But
Yeah.
I mean, I worked with him, and honestly, I worked with these guys on the school committee as well.
Yeah.
And I think school committee and board of selectmen still work well together. So It was an easy transition, and you know, it's interesting, it's different, but I like it a lot.
Wonderful. And you were 3 years on the school committee, right?
Yep.
Including being chairperson for 2 years.
That's correct.
And you're not a town meeting rep yet, but maybe someday I'll get you to run for that.
Yeah, maybe
But-
someday.
But Janet, this is your 8th time on the show, by the way. So
Oh, okay.
for just a few years that you've been involved in local politics, that's pretty good. Like a couple times a year is nice.
Oh yeah.
And it's always a
Thank
pleasure.
you for that. Oh, it's always fun. I always love the conversation. It's a lot of fun. So
Good. Well,
I
hopefully
appreciate it.
we'll love I'm going to have some tough questions tonight, though, on the show. So all the viewers, you better watch for all these tough questions.
okay.
You know me, Tom. I'm always asking everybody tough questions, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a joke because first I give questions ahead of time. I never try to trick anybody or put them on the spot. So it's kind of a joke because I never do that. I would never do that to anybody. At least not consciously. Subconsciously, yes.
You're in quite the mood tonight, aren't you?
It must be the 350th. I don't know. I didn't
Can't
do
blame it on
anything.
a sugar buzz. He
I
doesn't have the
know.
cake.
Yeah, I didn't have the cake yet. I didn't do anything out of the ordinary. I biked my 10 miles this morning.
It's the beard.
The beard, that's what it is.
beard,
It's
yeah.
bringing me
That
luck.
new attitude.
I'm being a better host because, you know, as I was saying, all the competition now with, if you don't add some humor and some reason for people to tune in, I don't think they're going to tune in. It's just not going to be entertaining enough. So I'm going to try to make the shows more entertaining now, funnier. Oh, Pam doesn't like it when I'm too funny, though.
No.
One time, I brought in...
One time.
No, I brought in like an iPad that I have, you know, a tablet computer, and it had sound effects, right? That was the only
Oh,
time
I
brought
remember
in.
that. Yeah.
I
And
called
so-
Mom and said, don't do that again.
Oh,
Yeah, so Pam, she really gave me the riot act. She said, don't ever do that again. Or something. Or I would recommend that you don't do it again. And I never did. But usually, not because of Pam, but because it just never seemed like the right time to do
Yeah.
it. However, I must admit, I was tempted to bring it in for tonight's show because it has a laugh track
So
and
we could
everything.
pull
you
his
know.
finger.
Yeah.
Oh no.
But we didn't need it tonight, apparently. We have our own laugh track,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So we
Yeah.
don't need it. So, Janet, you're also a principal in your company, right, Janet?
That's right.
Do you want to talk a little about that, or what company it is?
Yeah, it's
or-
Ryan LLC. It's a corporate tax consulting firm. We're the 7th largest tax consulting practice in North America now. About 1,700 employees, 48 offices around the world. So it keeps me really busy between that and family and Board of Selectmen.
I don't know how you do it, Janet, because not only do you do these things, but your job requires some travel to Texas a lot or Chicago.
Around the
And
around the
you're
country.
always going around, and it's amazing how you have the energy to do all of this. And you have 2 boys with you at home.
Yep.
And your husband, Bill, who's a great guy, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
I first met Bill when he was on the New Orleans rescue after Hurricane Katrina, I think
Yeah.
it was.
Yep.
And he had this organization, a charity, and he came on the show and we talked about the charity.
Well,
And
I
it
mean,
was
it certainly
amazing.
helps. He's been a stay-at-home dad since we moved up here, and so that makes it easy. Makes it easy
Nice,
for me to, you know, travel when I need to, and so he takes good care of the family. And but like Jim said, you know, if you love what you're doing, you'll always find time. And I love what I do, so.
And and you love being a selectman still, did you say?
Oh
As
yeah,
Jim does?
absolutely.
So are you going to work?
And I love what I do for work. I love my family, so I don't feel like I'm
Yeah.
really working a whole lot. I'm just kind of running around.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that you guys love it so much, being in political office.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we have
It
to
is
make
tough, yeah.
tough decisions, and we realize not everybody's going to be happy with our decisions. But I'm really comfortable with the ultimately decisions I do make. I spend a lot of time reflecting on what the decision will be. I think everybody on the board
Oh,
does
yes,
that,
yeah.
and the impact on the town overall. So,
Yes.
but I'm always very comfortable with the decision I ultimately make.
Wonderful.
We used to say if you're making everybody happy, you're not making the decisions you need to make.
That's right.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
You can't please everybody in politics, right? And I know that for many years I've been involved in politics with the show, and I've been a town meeting rep over 20 years now, I think. Never missed a meeting, by the way.
Good for you.
Proud of that. So, you know, a lot of times you could hear flack. Even if you do a political show like this, you're going to get flack from people sometimes. But that's just part of it. And one thing, I think as time goes on, you get used to it. That's why it's good for, before people run for real governor and all this, you should be the lower offices and see what it's like to be a politician. A lot of business people I know sometimes, right away they go run for governor. Why? Because they're wealthy and they think I could be governor. Well, you should get in the trenches a little bit, see what it's like to hold political office, to have people emailing you and calling you the worst names in the book online or whatever. Just get used to that for a while, see how much you like it before you run for governor.
The town used to have a prep class for people who are thinking of running for office, and it was Mary St. Hilaire,
Yeah.
and I can't remember who else.
I think Dennis Reddy.
Dennis Reddy, and maybe Jack Emerson at one point. But anyways, one of the biggest thing they said was, don't just go running for like selectman or something. Put some time in on the trenches, work on someone else's campaign,
Yes.
or go for an appointed office to learn part of the
How government
process.
works.
Yes.
And to jump right in, it's not the same as corporate America.
Yes, not at all. Not especially with these open meeting laws that they have, which drive me a little bit crazy as a library trustee. But that's another matter.
But on the flip side of that, I think there's a lot of benefit to having a lot of life experience, having a lot of business experience before you do take public
Definitely.
office.
Oh, yes.
That way you're making, I think, better decisions, based on experience.
I agree, Jen, 100%. I think having both of those together, life experience, business experience, and government experience, both together make a great candidate, great office holder once if they win.
And I think we've had some, to Janet's point, some recent experiences with that, with the school committee and the strategic plan that they did, right? That's something that you see mostly in the private sector that they've brought into the municipality. With the master planning process, we had an implementation plan that actually had accountability,
Yes.
and that was something that has never been done here in this town. So I think, you get people that have had success on the business side and they bring that success into the town side.
Yes.
It helps everybody.
It
right?
does,
So
yes.
It's beneficial.
Well, I wondered if we could start getting into some of our topics tonight. But I think we have a nice background of everybody, so it was useful, our discussion, I think.
Have you ever done any, so with 350 shows over 18 years, have you ever done any like bloopers or greatest hits shows?
No, we haven't.
Highlight reels?
If anybody wants to put it together, please
Have you
feel free.
have you ever had a blooper moment?
I don't think so.
At least not while the cameras were on, right?
Yeah, right.
No pull my fingers or anything
No,
like that?
yeah, we've never gone through a show where we had to say, we'll start over. I had that introduction wrong or anything. Because let's face it, it's local access TV, and it's not like ABC News or whatever with 1 million viewers. That's Pete, he said I heard that. He's our director, by the way, doing a great job. So, that helps a little bit too, because you could be freer if you have like maybe 10,000 viewers instead of 10 million, so it's a lot better. But the first topic we have tonight is the fire station, and I don't know if maybe our selectmen might want to start with this, one of both of them. Tell us what's going on with that. I know the fire station is being built at the moment, but do any of you want to update us on what's happening with the fire station? And
I'll start, and Janet can fill in the holes I leave. So we've had a proposal that's been approved through town meeting. So part of that proposal was to take about 3,500 square feet from the existing town offices. And after the folks had moved over to the new DPW headquarters up at Alpha Road and left that vacant to kind of move people around and start to renovate that and do the site work and have an adjoining building that would marry up to the existing town office building. So it's kind of a, it started off, it was going to be down on, Wilson Street and, a few different proposals, and we all know the history behind that. But unfortunately, given the economic climate and that construction is starting to rebound and commodities are starting to rise, things like metals, construction's good. So we didn't get as many proposals back that we would like, enough folks to answer the RFP, but also they came back high, the figures, so about $500,000.
I believe there were only 5 bids, right?
5 bids that came in, and they sent it out, via the proper protocols through DCAM, and you need a DCAM certificate to bid on it where it's over a certain dollar threshold. So the unfortunate part is that there's been some new legislation that was approved to the Attorney General's office that won't allow you to put that back out to bid as they've done in the past. So with respect to the elevators, we got one bid in for the elevators under the sub-bid. So, and that bid essentially came in double what we had budgeted, and they budgeted based on what they had for real life exposure at what we had for cost at the both town halls, where we just put elevators into both of those facilities. So the unfortunate part is I think the exact figure is like 484 in overage. What could happen is, what's going to happen is town meeting will be asked if they would like to approve another $484,000 or $500,000. If they don't, the existing town offices that they were going to renovate over will be cut back, and they won't do that. They'll do just what they have to do from an infrastructure standpoint, and have to delay that. That's only about $250,000 worth of the work, so they'll have to value engineer out another, $250. So, it's an unfortunate situation. The contingency that's being carried is real tight, so they didn't leave a lot of margin for error. It's I think running about 2.5%, or less than 3%, where you'd normally carry somewhere between 10-15% for this type of work. But knowing what's there, talking to the previous town engineer, Jim Pearson, and he was actually involved with when they filled that in, where the parking lot is now up on the higher end. So he's pretty much guaranteed that there's no skeletons in there or anything. They're not going to hit any gas
Jimmy
tanks.
Hoff is not
Yeah.
there.
No cars.
Yeah. So that's kind of the short story of where we're at with it, and I think town meeting will have another important vote coming up on whether or not they want to approve another $484,000.
Yes.
I think it's actually $500,000.
Yeah, I think they just rounded up to 500,000.
And town meeting is coming up in just about 1 month from the time we're taping the show on. We're taping on September 17th, I think. So next month we'll
Just around the corner.
vote for it, and all of us, most of us can vote on that. Jan will be there as a select person. Jan, do you have anything to add what Jim mentioned?
Just,
about
I was with Paul Cohen yesterday in Worcester. We attended a regionalization conference and talked to a town manager who they're doing a project in his town, and he got stuck on the elevator as well, where they came back at twice the amount. And he said that he's way over costs as well with the commodities. So it seems like it's an issue for other towns as well. But
Yes.
And that's I can attest to that in the private sector, because what I do, we use a lot of copper and a lot of pipe, aluminum pipe, metal alloy pipe, and then ductwork as well. And the cost of metals has come up tremendously. It's running about 25 to 30% higher than it was 2 years ago. So it's which is good. That's a sign of the times, and it means that the factories don't have it sitting on the shelf somewhere or waiting for orders to come in. There's a backlog, right? And typically when that happens, you see the prices come up, and construction's good.
Yes.
It's just a sign of the times.
Well, I'm glad the economy is picking up. It's not as good as we'd all like, I think we could agree, but it's picking up. And the last 5 years, we've had a nice progression of the economy picking up after the huge recession and the market crash, really, of September 2008, 5 years ago from today. So there's been a lot of discussion about it lately. And I think our government and everybody, all our private sector people, are doing a great job helping us dig our way out of this, because we're doing better than Europe. If you compare, Europe is, kind of also a developed countries, and they kept their money supply lower than we did, so they've had a recession much longer than the United States did. So I think there's a lot of credit to be given to Ben Bernanke and other people who have been in charge. But not to get off on economics too much, because that's what I do for a living, basically. I'm a full-time stock trader / investor, so I spend a lot of time following this stuff. So Sue and Pam, do you have any other comments about the fire station before we move on to the grinder pumps?
I got a phone call after one meeting when town hall was packed. Sue, you were right. There was no parking, but it was, somebody was just laughing because it was just so full. And it was at we knew there'd be crunch times when you're in transition from upper parking to lower parking and things getting finished.
So where
and
are you
stuff.
referring to that there was no parking?
Because parking is down below behind town hall,
And-
that there were out of spaces that were paved because the final project will have upper and lower parking.
Yeah.
And it was just a really busy
And
night.
there were no paved, down below, there wasn't enough paved?
Everybody was parking in the
What was it?
gravel area.
It was a huge event or
I
something?
don't know what it
going
was.
on?
I
Oh.
don't know what it was, but somebody
Okay.
called me and said, yeah, it was really busy.
Well, in fact-
Parking was tight. But that was one thing the planning board asked, is that they make provisions for additional parking down there, and they did.
Yeah,
And that's where people had to park.
Good,
So,
yes.
you know.
Yeah, because, by the way, we have the book sale coming up, the famous Chelmsford Book Sale, which is going to be at our town offices this coming weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And one thing that we talked about at the library trustee meeting is the parking, to remind everybody that they'll need to park in back, and there's some people would maybe park on top and then walk down at the town offices. But anyway, now there's a lot of parking in back now. Even regular town meetings, you have to go in back. And once the elevator's there, the idea was that people can get on the elevator and for the second and third floor, those who have trouble going upstairs and that kind of thing. But I envision this kind of problems. That's why I voted against the fire station, one reason, when it first came up. There were just a few of us. Charlie Wojcik did. Charlie was going to be on the show tonight as well, but it was just because of the location there. I felt there were some problems with parking and other things, and the neighbors, et cetera, that bothered me. But as far as this $500,000, I'm planning to vote for that, because I think now that it started, I think we should finish it and do it right. I don't think we should skimp the way Jim has been talking about there. So my plan is a town
Well,
meeting.
I'm not advocating to skimp, just don't. So
Well,
we
if
got
we
that
cut
out
out the
there.
500,000, won't we have to skimp a little bit?
Well, yeah, you'd have to cut back the renovation piece
Well,
of the
that's what I
existing
meant,
town offices, but that's not what I'm advocating for.
No, I
I'm
know.
advocating
Yeah,
to
you
vote
would
for it.
vote for it.
I'm with you,
right?
Tom. I'm with
Yeah,
you.
you would
Yeah.
vote for it, because you're a town meeting rep as well, right, Jim?
Yep.
Yeah, as Pam.
I think the biggest thing is Tom has showed us, the longer you delay when the economy is starting to build, the more it's going to cost you.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had started this 2 years ago when the market was really poor, we probably would have saved a lot of money. But,
Just some,
you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, the better the economy gets, the more we get lower unemployment, greater full employment, the higher the rates are going to be
Yep.
for labor, et cetera, and contracting. Just obvious, really. So, thank you, Sue. And Pam, do you have
Well,
any
my
comments?
question to the selectman is, where is this $500,000 coming from?
Good question. Same
Where is
place.
it coming from,
It's
Jim?
coming from the budget. Yeah. So it'd be
Tax increase or?
no tax increase.
loan?
So it'd be from the existing levy,
Yep.
right? So it's going to be, some of it's being bonded in a debt service, right? It's just like we do any other debt. I do want to just make a comment on, the financial stability of the town of Chelmsford. Where we were back when Paul Cohen took over to where we are today is a remarkable turnaround. I mean, we had, our stabilization fund was down, the bond rating, wasn't as good as it is today. Our credit rating was down. And he's done a good job turning things around full circle. And what we've been able to accomplish in a down economy, be it some of that's been done with community preservation money, right, which is good, rather than just sitting there, it's being used for good purposes.
Yes.
And we were able to take advantage of some of the, the construction rates in a down economy, and take advantage of, people being out of work to get better competitive pricing, right?
Yes.
And I think part of what people miss with community preservation is that it creates jobs. So not only are you putting it towards a good purpose, right, because it can only be used for so many things, you're also creating jobs with that money, which is giving back to the economy, right? Because it's giving back to the town as well. If they're working in town, they're typically eating in town, they're filling up at the gas stations in town. So, yeah, so to answer your question, it would be coming from within the tax levy. No tax increases is going to be asked of the residents. And I agree with Tom. I think that, you've gone this far with it. It's unfortunate that we weren't able to leverage, 2 years ago. But we weren't in a situation 2 years ago that we were ready to pull the trigger as a community. This could have very easily have gone at Wilson Street or some other
Yes.
place.
That was my preference, by the way, and I was pushing for it. But it didn't happen, so we have to see how it turns out now, where it is. But now that it's there, like I said, I'm going to vote for it. But how about if we move on to the grinder pump issue, because we have many topics to get to. And in fact, one of our camera people has a grinder pump in her home, and it's something she's dissatisfied with totally. She just said before the taping that she would have been happier if she kept her septic tank rather than hooking up to the sewer system with a grinder pump. There's about 525 homes, as I understand it, in Chelmsford with grinder pumps. For the people at home who don't know, some of them break down, and the homeowners are responsible for that, and they have to call the maintenance company. Apparently is at Cape Cod. That's what they've been telling me. And sometimes it takes them 3 or 4 days to get there if it's a weekend. And if the electricity goes out, the pump doesn't work, and they have to buy generators. And if they don't have a generator, it could be a real problem with all kinds of backup. So it's quite a problem. And many people with grinder pumps, understandably, are quite concerned / angry about this. There's going to be a warrant article this year, right, about the grinder pump issue. And so maybe if I think it has to do with the selectmen are going to be voting on it at their next meeting, so maybe they can't talk too much about it tonight. I don't know, but could you update us or fill us in on that, and Jim or Janet?
Sure.
I mean, we're going to be voting on a policy on Monday night, and it pretty much mirrors the warrant article. But what it's going to be doing is asking basically the town of Chelmsford to take over the responsibility for the maintenance and repair of the grinder pumps. And it's a very unfortunate situation. I really feel for these folks. I expect Monday night's discussion to be lengthy, and as we try to come up with a solution for these folks.
Yeah. Any thoughts about this?
Yeah, E1 is the system that they use. And
Not
those-
everybody, but
right.
most of
but
them.
those for a long time they were like the best ones out there, and it seems like they're not.
E1.
When I've designed systems, I was always told that if you have less than 25 people, it's more cost effective for individual pumps at the homes rather than the pump station.
Okay, yeah.
Other towns, when you design, say, 10 houses on a grinder system, you give 2 spare pumps to the town. So if somebody's having family over on Christmas Eve and all of a sudden the pump goes,
Yeah.
the town can step in and help out. And that's sort of how I would hope that our town can react to those people. But maybe see if there are other alternatives, because it's a tough situation.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
It's and I said this during our last meeting. It's very difficult because you've got a small quantity of people. Less than 4% of the folks that are on residences that are on sewer as a whole are on these pumps, right? And the fact of the matter is you got to consider all aspects in the entire town. There's liability with taking this on. There's risk associated with backups, and how do we address that risk? There's easements that have to be taken if you are going to take those on. That has cost associated with it. And then the ongoing maintenance number that would have to be added to the budget is, in my opinion, astronomical. And I still think it's conservative. I mean, Gary brought forth some information that was, very helpful in where we would be with that. So, you got to weigh out. Some of the folks, most of the folks that have sewer pumps got discounts on their betterment assessment, right, to get the pumps, and the pumps were provided as part of the package from the town, and they had to pay for the installation, right? And you heard some folks come up and talk about, well, the installation's not right, it's not engineered right, and I don't know if that's really, something that the town wants to take on as a liability, right?
Yes, yeah.
And this is where you talked earlier about, do you enjoy being a selectman? It's very tough because you have to look holistically at everybody in the town and what's the best for the town as a whole, right?
Yeah.
And if you add, 525, risk liabilities to the town, right, and the cost associated with that, you got to be prepared for that. It could be very, very expensive, and it could be, could be a situation where you're biting off more than you can financially chew on.
Yeah.
And some of it is a case of people need to be educated.
Yep, that too.
That it's not like your septic system where, if you're cleaning your bathroom with one of the, Lysol wipes, you can just flush it down the toilet. Especially with grinder pumps, you don't want to do that.
Oh.
So, and I'm not to say that those people are causing their own problems, but I'm saying that's an issue if the town were to take it on, is you have no control over what a 2-year-old might flush down the toilet. And if somebody has, kids that aren't using the toilet appropriately, that the town all of a sudden it bears responsibility for it. It's a balancing.
There's a ton of history with this whole scenario, and the other thing that you got to consider is the folks that have private drives or private streets or private driveways, right, that funded the entire their sewer themselves, right, and they maintain it themselves because it's not an accepted street, right.
So,
How do you make it right for them as well, right? Because there's more than them than you think, right? There's a lot of
And
private
I've already
drives.
gotten a call from someone who's in a condo and said, what about us?
Right.
What about our condo?
Right.
We'd like to be picked up. Now, I haven't gotten a call from a business who may have a grinder pump,
Yeah.
but that's where, you know, like you said, we need to step back and really take a look at this.
Slippery
Yes.
slope.
Right.
Because
It
there-
is,
there-
but
there
y-
could be, like you said, businesses or places that haven't come forward yet, that once they hear the town's kicking in, they're like, okay, well, what about us? And,
because they would consider that fair.
right,
But at the same time, again, you know, our job, our role is to be advocates for our
Right.
residents. So how do we do that? How do we, that's
had you
what's going to be Monday
considered
night's
Sue's idea
discussion.
about having possibly a backup pump or a backup generator if somebody was in a dire situation and the people down the Cape couldn't get there for 3 days, that you could at least lease them, rent them, something?
Yeah,
would-
that's something that I'd like to talk about on
Yeah,
Monday. And,
that's
you know,
Because most
re-
of those pumps are supposed to be quick disconnects.
Right.
So you can drop them in. When I was in my condo, we had a pump that kept burning out. And what we did was we had our contractor, we made sure he had 2 spare so that he could substitute them in. So while something's out being repaired, we have backups and you have a spare.
You know what's really surprising is I manage a lot of properties in Boston and Cambridge. For those buildings that have sewerage systems like this, they have dual pumps in there. So if
Commercial
one
have to.
fails, you've
Kicks
got the
over.
other one to kick over, and you take that one out, and while you're repairing that, you still have a
That's a
backup.
great
And I'm
idea.
surprised that
If
they
The
don't.
E1s don't have enough capacity. It's just a little canister and there's room for 1 pump.
Mm.
Commercial or multifamily have to have the dual by state code.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's good.
but
Well,
having spare on the shelf would maybe help things along.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, should we move on to,
Yep.
how about the recycling question and the new DPW facility? I know Janet and Jim, the select persons, have been involved in a recycling discussion at town meeting recently. So, any thoughts on, excuse me, any thoughts on that? I'm just laughing because it was controversial in town and everything about where it should be. So, some people thought it should be at Richardson Road, where we had the DPW facility in the past. The DPW has moved out to a beautiful new facility, by the way. We'll talk about that in a minute. But then, and other people, I think Janet might be one of them, who thought it might be contamination there at the Richardson Road facility. So you would recommend we would go put it where the new DPW facility is, right?
Yeah, because,
Or-
you know, they came to town meeting and did a presentation and said, one of the reasons we want a new DPW facility is to consolidate these functions. And one of those was the recycling center. Like Jim had mentioned in the meeting, there's a lot of property there. We're talking about a couple of dumpsters. So it seems to make sense. In fact, we may actually increase our tonnage by having it closer to businesses. You know, you have all those companies there. There's all kinds of distribution centers back there. They're the ones with the big cardboard boxes. It just seemed to make sense to me. Plus, I mean, the North Chelmsford Water District is very much opposed to this because those wells are there, and that is the only source of water for our North Chelmsford residents. And, you know, what they're proposing is fine, but it's not a matter of what they're proposing, but, you know, the second time, the new revised plan. But when those gates are open and somebody pulls up and they've got the old lawnmower, which was on the original flyer that they sent out, I think that was early July, they talked about, you know, bring your fluorescent bulbs, bring your mercury, bring, you know, old lawnmowers, rigid plastics, bring all these. And then they said, oh, well, now you can't. What I'm concerned about is, and they're encouraging other towns to come in and bring theirs, the recyclables as well. I'm just concerned the doors are shut, they're locked, and somebody drives up and says, and they dump it. And then we have a potential contamination issue. To me, it's just not worth the risk.
Yeah, yeah. Jim, what do you think?
Yeah, so I won't rehash what Janet's brought. So, the other component for me that was, a serious concern was during town meeting, we talked about, the structural integrity of the buildings. They weren't up to code. They weren't, some of the bays weren't heated. It just wasn't where we wanted our employees. And I remember, like it was yesterday, how much we were saying, do we really want our employees working in this type of an environment, right? Well, here we are talking about expanding, recycling, down to Richardson Road because it's more centrally located. I don't buy that. It's up at the town offices today. Putting it at Alpha Road, a mile down the road, just
only a mile,
makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
You've got plenty of space there. It was supposed to go there. That's what was pitched.
Yeah.
But why would we put an employee in buildings that we've already said are not structurally, fit? They've got building code issues. Why would we do that? I mean, what should happen at that site is we should look to get that final phase of the DPW done for the mechanics, right? Get them moved up like we had always planned, and then raise those buildings and utilize that space for some town function that, can be beneficial, like, the dog park's going in there, that
Yes.
will take up a piece of it.
Yeah.
And maybe there's some other, open space type concept
I'd love
we
to
could
see
do
it
in there.
just cleaned up
Yeah.
and it just be a park.
I think continue to mine the sand out of there
As I said, we need to
and
keep
let
the
the
sand
site
pit going.
rest for, a few years and figure out long-term what we want to do with it.
Yes.
I just think putting recycling there and, originally when it was pitched to us, it was going to be opened up to other communities. I don't like that idea whatsoever because I think it breeds the opportunity for misbehavior, especially if, you got a fence there, but people will put things next to the fence.
Yes.
And if you go up to the Swain landfill now,
Yeah.
you'll see where people have gotten in. That fence hasn't been locked, and people have gone in there and dumped. And
Yes. Yes.
it's there now. So
You're
I
right,
mean, now
yes.
we've got a mess to clean up there, and
Yeah.
eventually we're going to want to have that as a parking facility so that we can access Oak Hill.
Is this coming up at town meeting next month? And
It's a
there's-
warrant article. It's a
Is it citizen-
non-binding warrant
Non-binding?
article. John Curlin submitted it.
Oh, John Curlin, that's that one, yeah. And that's about what, Jan? Do you want to quickly summarize
That's the
it?
recycling center.
Oh, to keep it at Richardson Road. I mean, that.
Or
I
to
mean-
put it at Richardson
Or to
Road.
put it
not
at
there
Richardson,
now,
I'm sorry,
right.
not to keep it, to put
It's
it
to
there
move
now.
it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, move it there, yeah. So, but is there only one, do we have just one at the moment, a warrant article about this?
Yeah, there's only one.
Nothing about going to the DPW facility? That may be a future warrant article, say if this other one doesn't pass.
And I mean,
But I mean, it's, I mean, if it doesn't, if the warrant article doesn't pass, I mean, Paul Cohen's looking for places to
Yes.
put this. And,
Yeah.
I do want to say that Nick Parley does a fantastic
Oh,
job.
sure, yeah. This
Has
isn't
great
about- yeah.
intentions. No, it's not about him.
Oh, yeah, no.
No, he does a great job.
Oh,
But like I
yeah.
said, it's those unknowns.
Yeah.
And is it really worth the risk
Yeah.
Yeah.
of a potential contamination?
And I'm a little confused by the warrant article myself because in my discussions with Paul, he's moved on. He's not an advocate for moving it at Richardson Road anymore. The decision's been made. He's fine,
Yeah.
and he's looking for alternative. And if you look now, he's brought in a covered dumpster at the town offices during construction to stop it from overflowing, and he's
Yeah.
having it emptied more frequently.
Yeah.
So he's come
Good.
up with a temporary solution for it.
Great,
We could do that same type of dumpster up at Alpha Road,
yeah. Yeah.
that would solve all of our problems. So it's like Janet said, it's two dumpsters. It's not a.
Yes, right. Any comments, Sue and Pam, before we move on to another topic?
I did the North Chelmsford water study, and I think if recycling was exactly as they said it was going to be with the paper predominantly, I wouldn't have had an issue. But I
Yeah.
totally agree with you can't control dumping.
No,
Yeah.
you can't.
The
As soon
midnight
as someone
dumping's
knows it's
scary.
there, yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, how about, do we have time we have a little bit of time to talk about 40Bs. It's a big issue, and that's why I said that. And there's been one that may be proposed. It hasn't been officially proposed yet on Mill Road, as I understand it. I keep in touch with Paul Haverty about this, who's on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and Charlie Wojcik, who's now on the Zoning Board of Appeals as an alternate. So I keep on top of it a lot, and also with John Edwards, I communicate with him a lot. So they said, I believe it's not officially proposed yet on Mill Road, a 120-unit 40B with about, 4 buildings, 4 stories high, or is it 3
I
buildings,
think
4
it's
stories
3
high?
buildings, 4
4
stories high.
for 120 rental units. Only 20% of them will be affordable, but because they're rental, they'll all be counted as affordable, but only 20% will really be affordable in terms of price. Any comments about 40Bs as a whole, or this particular one that may come up?
Well, I know
Any-
Princeton Properties, or I believe Princeton Properties up in North, is not fully rented. So if you can't fully rent out a facility that's already here, how, how are you going to rent out a new one?
Yes, yeah. And did you see the prices they're asking on the Princeton Commons? I checked it out. You could just click on it online. For a little 600 square foot apartment, maybe 650 square feet, $1,500 a
Right,
month
Right.
for this little thing one bedroom, and then the two bedrooms, $2,000 a month.
Yep.
Now, if you're making $15 or $20 an hour, there's no way you could afford this at all.
No.
So it's definitely unaffordable for people of low means, and that's way above the minimum wage.
And
as
if they're
as
going to
well.
ask those same kind of rents on Mill Road,
I know.
it's not going to fill up.
I know. I'm wondering about that. Geez, I don't think the market, and apparently the market can't bear those high rents. That's what happens if you find you don't get enough renters at $1,500 a month. You lower it maybe to $1,200 a month. See if you can get the renters in there as basic supply and demand. Any other comments about the 40Bs, ideas or whatever?
Well, I was on the Affordable Housing Committee, and we had put that piece of property on the map, but I believed we had considered it in combination with abutting properties and recognizing they need to solve the traffic issues. And I think, 40B or not, health and safety are the key issues that they have to overcome.
Yes.
And from everything that I've been reading in the paper about the different hearings, safety is what they've got to really address.
Yes.
So maybe it will happen, maybe it won't because of that.
Yeah.
But I think we still have a need for truly affordable housing
Yeah.
in the town.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
Even though the economy is recovering, there's still a lot of people out there hurting, or who maybe, still foreclosures are down, but that doesn't mean they've disappeared.
Yes.
I think we still have a need to help those people.
But yeah, the $1,500, $2,000 price
That's not affordable.
is not affordable.
No, not at all.
And
Well, I mean, I certainly think we need, to focus on affordable housing, but I also think we need to focus on the people who already live here and are in a situation where, because of our property taxes increasing so much every year, and maybe it's not considered a lot to some of us, but I remember when I was running, I had an elderly couple contact me and said, listen, we're about to lose our house that we worked so hard for, raised our family in. We've already sold one of our cars. We're down to one car. We're trying to minimize, and that's to just stay in their house.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a bit of my focus is how do we get control of the budget? How do we get control of our spending, reduce our property taxes here to make it livable for the folks that already live here?
Yeah.
And
Well, I agree.
I do have I certainly, want to help those people who also, are looking for affordable housing. But this 40B that's going to be proposed, I don't see that as the answer.
But some of the people who maybe can't afford their house or maybe can't maintain their house and can't afford to pay somebody to help them on the maintenance, I still think we could use housing in town where you have an alternative than to stay in your house where you're really struggling. And I think that's where the truly affordable is what we need.
Yeah, because moving to a $2,000 a
600
month.
It's
square
not an
foot, yeah.
alternative, no.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
No.
Yes. Yeah.
But some of these folks only paid $15,000, $30,000 for their home, so this is, the tax jump for them over time is huge.
Yes.
I would love to see, and you and I have talked about how do we change the 40B. It's not going to just go away,
Right.
but perhaps there's a way where we could reduce the requirement on towns, from
State
10%
level.
to maybe 5%. Something where to reward the towns that have already done a great job, but just make it manageable.
And I thought, a few years back when they had the repeal legislator coming through, right, and we took a vote on it, I thought that was going to be a good shot that we'd be able to get it rewritten, but boy, they lobbied hard. They put some big money up, and they ended up getting it pushed through again with virtually no changes, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's where maybe a compromise, wouldn't go on the ballot, but there could be some kind of compromise
By
that
the
would
way,
work.
I spoke to our state representative with your idea, by the way, Jim Arcero.
Okay.
So he's going to look into it. So
But
anyway, I did bring
Unfortunately, we're going to be a prime target for 40Bs because we have town sewer and town water.
Yeah, you got
People
it.
say, why not Carlisle? Well, you don't have septics and you don't have water.
And we have public transportation.
public
And we're on Route
transportation.
3 and 195.
And, yeah.
and-
Yeah.
So we're just, we're in the radar because of our amenities.
Yes.
And the other thing is that the 40Bs that you're seeing coming forward now is a true sign that the economy is on
Yeah.
on the way back. If you notice, the last 4 or 5 years, we
yes.
haven't
Oh,
had.
I know. Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
they've been silent.
The housing had a rebound, obviously, the housing market, and that's what's happening slowly. So I knew the 40Bs. I mean, that was just obvious to me that once the housing market picked up, demand picked up for housing, you're
Right.
going to have developers coming in, want to put in 100 houses on 4 acres instead of 4 houses. It's just common sense. But thank you, Jim. Thanks. So before the time runs out, I just want to quickly mention, as I did earlier, about the book sale coming up this weekend at the town offices at the gym level, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But also, there's a common day on the Chelmsford Common on September 28th. From 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's where a lot of artists and people with all kinds of things and crafts items, and there will also be food there, craft items to sell, will be there. It'll be a nice day. Hopefully the weather will be a little better than it was last year.
I'm
It was a
doing
little bit
pine
chilly
cone
last
wreaths for that one.
year. You what?
I've got a booth.
You have a
Doing
booth?
pine cone wreaths, and a friend's doing shell wreaths
That's
and shell
fantastic,
mirrors.
Sue.
So.
By the way, I call her the Martha Stewart of
Oh,
Chelmsford.
God.
Sweetheart. You may not know that, but she makes jams and cooks fantastically and,
Really?
and does all kinds of things around the house. She's amazing. So
You should have your own show.
Well,
yeah, I think it'd be
although
nice.
I have to admit, I'm having a carpenter do oak stairs for me, oak stair
Oh,
treads, instead of me
really?
doing it
Oh.
myself. So.
Oak stairs,
Yeah.
nice.
She knows how to
nice.
take her own toilet out and put it back in.
Yep,
so-
and Jim Lane Jim Lane is my teacher on that one.
Oh
The
my
key to
God,
keeping a
that's a-
toilet from tip is to put washers or quarters under it.
That's
Thanks to Jim.
fantastic. That's a big job. Oh my God. Well, we also have the synthetic fields that came up in town. Any comments of that? It looks beautiful, right?
It does look
Really
beautiful.
nice.
Synthetic
Yeah.
fields are there. And I don't know if we have time to talk about the schools and bullying and things like that. There's a lot of things going on. Well, we have a few minutes. Any comments about a lot of kids now with the high technology and the texting and everything? Unfortunately, a little 12-year-old girl just committed suicide recently. So any comments about that, about bullying with the kids with online things and everything?
I know coming off the school committee, I mean, the administration, the school committee, the principals, everyone's trying to get their arms around it, put some policies in place, and try to do whatever they can. My personal opinion is it starts at home, and that's really the job of the parents.
They have to pay much closer attention to their children,
That's
their
right.
children's moods,
Yeah.
Ask questions, get involved with their
You
kids.
have to monitor that.
Yeah.
Because there's only so much that the teachers and administration and everyone can do.
And they may not see it as much in the school. It could happen on the bus, in the schoolyard, in the neighborhood. Parents have to take a very active role in that.
That's right.
On
You-
the bus, what if they're not on the bus though, right, with the children?
Well, what
You
I'm
say-
saying is sometimes the teachers are not the only ones that see this, and it doesn't
Yes.
take place in school. There are other
Yeah.
places they could be bullied.
Yes.
So the
yeah.
parent really has to, it could be at a karate lesson, dance lesson, sports event. They have to pay attention to, their kids and how they're interacting.
But so, like what happened with this young girl who recently committed suicide, she got on some other websites which she didn't know about. Her daughter got on, and her daughter was bullied tremendously, and it was terrible.
Yep.
So there's so many new websites that the kids are coming up with. And her mother said that in interviews. I didn't know about these new sites because she was trying to monitor like her Facebook page, things like that.
Well,
It's
you have
so
to
sad.
monitor the whole computer.
Yeah.
There's so much where you can do with not only time limits, but filter the content and set up
Yes.
restrictions. Unfortunately, you have to do it.
Yeah. So, well, thanks. It's been a wonderful show with a great panel. And tonight, as those of you who may just tuning in, this is our 350th Politically Incorrect show. And because we're on cable access, we've survived so long without being canceled. I guess without sponsors, I didn't have to worry about being canceled, right? But I've had, like I said, over 200 great panelists over the years, many for 10, 20 times. And we had a great group of friends tonight. Janet brought in this for me to wear this. Oh, she has this great cake that Janet Askenburg brought. It only shows 50 there, but it's 350 that Janet brought in. And
Do you want me to turn it?
Okay, so you can all make fun of me now. Janet brought this in. Janet Askenburg, 350. You see that there?
Yeah, you gotta turn it a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, so thank you all very much for watching over all these years. Thank you all for your thumbs up and your comments on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you all the panelists who've been on the show over the years. Thanks to our great camera people, our volunteers, George and Azora and Dan, and our director, Pete Padula. If you have any comments on the show, please send me an email at tcristiano@comcast.net. Ciao.